Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Windows 10 session of our VTC conference. As you all well know, that Windows 10 was released on July 29th, and I'm assuming that a number of you have had the opportunity to download it and get a chance to see exactly what it's all about. Today, I'm just going to discuss some of the things that I have found out over the course of the 6 or 8 months that I've been playing around with it, plus some new materials. But the thing that was, of course, that was kind of the thorn in everyone's side was the Start menu in Windows 8. And Microsoft made great strides in trying to address those issues with Windows 10. And as you can see, we now have the more traditional start menu rather than a start screen. Microsoft has smartly incorporated both actually into the start menu. As you can see, the familiar tiles that were prominent in Windows 8 are now appended to the side of a more traditional looking start menu. But the surprising thing about this particular start menu that is adjustable. You can adjust it to any size that you like, make it as large as you like, and for those people that still feel very comfortable with the start screen, it's possible to emulate that with Windows 10 by just going to the settings, as I just clicked on, and go to personalization, and you will find a link that says start. All it needs to do is just flip the switch to use start full screen, and voila, you now have what appears to be very much like the start screen in Windows 10. Windows 8, pardon me. And this is my preference. I still felt very comfortable with the start screen, so I have mine set to full screen.
Bill, a question that might be important. Is this version you're showing us today an upgrade from the testing or 7, 8, or clean install?
This particular one is an upgrade from Windows 8.1 update. So all was required was just run the Windows update, and it brought everything in from Windows 8. I didn't lose anything. In fact, all my printers and all my peripherals worked without me doing anything. So you really do not have a issue with upgrading from 8.1 update. I have upgraded also a Windows 7 machine, and there was no problems with it either. And it was an older machine. One of the things that some people have experienced is that they're not getting their invitations. And so there is a workaround, which if you go to Windows Update, you might find where there has been several attempts to install Windows 10. If you click on that failed link, it will give you some information about the failure, and also at the bottom you'll find 2 links that gives you some additional information. If you click on the very first link, it will take you to a page that says something to the effect Windows Preview. Ignore all that information there. Scroll down to the very bottom and click on Install or Get Windows 10. There you'll find the link to the software that you can install on your machine if you hadn't got the invitation. The only thing that you have to be really concerned about is that know whether you're running a 32-bit operating system or a 64. Both links will be there. Just click on the appropriate one and then just follow the prompts, and you should be okay in getting it installed. Are there any questions or clarifications about what I said? Okay. Now, in addition to that, of course, we have the more traditional, some other things that are tricky about some other tricks. I'm sorry about the new start menu is that if you go down here to all programs, you'll find all the programs that have been installed on your machine. And one of the nice things about this particular one is that you can uninstall a program directly from the screen by right-clicking and just clicking on uninstall. So you no longer have to go to add remove programs. You can just do it right here from the start menu, as well as pin a program to to start or pin it to the taskbar. So that's a really nice feature. Also, if you feel a little concerned about you have to do all this scrolling, one other thing is that you could just click on the alphabet here and it will give you the alphabet where you can click on where you think that particular program happens to reside. So if I want to look for a Windows program, I can click here and then it has all the W's. So you really don't have to scroll. You can just click on the letter and it will then give you this nice alphabetical view. One of the things that has been sort of a concern, of course, is the versions. There are two versions, actually there are four versions of Windows 10. You have the home version, 32-bit and 64-bit, and then you have the Pro version, 32-bit, 64-bit. Some of the differences between the two is one that's very prominent is the fact that in the Windows update is that home users will not have the option of going in and electing what updates they want to install. On the home version, you'll be getting all the updates that Microsoft will be pumping out. That might change in the future, but that's the current situation today. But you also can manage how these updates actually happened, or occur rather. Again, is that we will go to our settings, and if you notice, I'm clicking on, there's at the very top in the upper uh, left-hand corner, I hope you can see that, you will see something that is been labeled as the Hamburger Menu. And what it is, of course, it's like it has three lines, and you'll see that used quite a bit in Windows 10. So I'm clicking that, and that's opening up my panel that shows my most used applications, recently added, File Explorer, Settings, Power, and again, all apps. So in order to manage my updates, I'm going to click on Settings, and that's going to give me the Settings menu. And here I can go to Update and Security, which is this panel right here. Click here, and it gives me where my Windows Update resides, as well as Defender, Backup, Recovery, Activation as well. But in Windows Update, it tells me it has quite a few things. One, it's going to tell me whether I have updates available. It's going to give me a schedule when this particular update will be installed. So if you look down here, it says we'll schedule a restart during the time you normally do not use your device, right around 4:30 a.m. And I don't know how they selected that, but normally I'm not up at that hour, so that works for me. But if you would like to change it, you can also select a restart time that's more convenient for you. Or you can go down and restart it now. Under the advanced options, you'll find how the updates are to be installed. And this is the pro version, so I have the option of having automatic or notify to schedule a restart. Keep everything running smooth. Will restart your device automatically when you're not using it. Updates won't download over a metered connection if you're on have a limited access to the internet. Also, it allows you to give updates to other Microsoft products such as Microsoft Office. And then you can also defer those upgrades, and it's a little link here that will tell you more about what that actually does. Some Windows editions let you defer upgrades to your PC. When you defer upgrades, new Windows features won't be downloaded or installed for several months. Deferring upgrades doesn't affect security updates. Note that deferring upgrades will prevent you from getting the latest Windows features as soon as they become available. As you are maybe aware, is that Microsoft is moving towards a more service-oriented model. It's very similar to what has been available in the Apple arena. So you probably will see the last of the full-blown operating system. In other words, Windows 10 is probably going to be with us for quite a while. And what you will find over time is that new features will be introduced through Windows Update. One of the things that is a well-known fact is that in Windows 10 there was not a DVD player. Within the next couple weeks or months, you will see that feature added to Windows 10, and it will come through Windows Update. Now, those of you that are still rather unfamiliar, or at least get lost with the way the new settings menus look, which actually is going to be eventually a replacement for the control panel. That's not to say that the traditional control panel is not here. So in order to get to it, the easiest way I have found to get to any kind of setting or feature that I don't know exactly where it is within Windows 10, I take advantage of the search box, which is down at the lower left-hand corner. This has Ask Me Anything. It also is where the voice recognition or the personal assistant called Cortana also resides. But if I don't want to use the mic to ask her a question, I can just click there and say, type in Control Panel. And if you notice at the very top of the screen, it will give the result of that search. Knowing that that little icon right there, as in the past, represents the control panel. So I can click that, and voila, I now have the more traditional control panel, which most of us are familiar with from prior versions of Windows. I should say we're all familiar with from prior versions of Windows. It can still be broken down by category, as you see here, or you can break it down to the large or small icons. But for now,
Bill, a question that bumped through.
Yes.
Oh, I was going to say, while you were doing the update, somebody asked, since you said you do it at 4:30 in the morning, does the computer have to be on?
The computer would have to be on, and I'm a user that always leaves my machines on regardless. I never turn them off. So the machine would have to be on in order to take advantage of that particular time. If you do not turn, if you do turn your machine on, you might want to go in and adjust the time to a time where you have it on. Maybe when you first turn it on in the morning and you do whatever you need to do, and then you leave it for a couple hours, you might want to set the time for the updates to occur within that window. But yes, the machine does have to be on in order to take advantage of the updates. So just to take a look briefly at some of the settings is that the very first one says system, and that gives you the uh, tools to change your display, how notifications are done, where you can adjust what you want to be notified of and what you do not by just taking these switches and turning them on and off. Apps and features is where you would make your default settings. Say for instance, like I think in Windows 8 they had photos and then they had the photo gallery, and you could go in and make changes which one you wanted the default program to read those particular um, features. As you see, it's going to take some time because it's going to also determine what size the apps that are installed. But there you can also um, add, do a number of other things. As it says, search, sort, filter by drive. If you like to uninstall or move an app, you can select it from this list. Multitasking. Tablet mode, if you're operating a tablet, you can make the windows more touch friendly for the device that you're using. Power and sleep. When you want the screen to turn off, when you want the PC to turn off. And then there's some additional power settings here, which will bring up the old um, menu that you're more familiar with in choosing a power plan. Storage, it tells you which drive is taking up the most space. In this case, I have three drives. I have my PC, which is the one that's installed in my computer, and I also have some reverse system reserve, which is also within that, just a partition of this 1.81 terabyte drive. And then this right here is a separate external drive that I use for as an external backup. There's also offline maps, which I'm not really sure exactly what this is actually used for, but it does show the actual does show an actual map where you can get directions for places and when you're not connected over the internet. The default app shows everything that is associated with a particular program. Like email, I currently have Mail as my default email client, but I could have another client that if I prefer to use, like Thunderbird or one of those others, I could make that the default here. Music player, I'm currently using the Groove Music, which is something new in Windows 10. It replaces the media player. But I'm using that as default. But if I wanted to use media player, I could very well go here, and it's still there. and I could use it as my default player if I so desired. I just click on that, and then it shows Windows Media Player. So I just click that, and then Groove Music would then be replaced with Windows Media Player. Or if I want to use iTunes, those are the ones that are available. So it makes it really simple if you find yourself, well, I don't want that particular application to be opening up my programs. Come over here to Default Apps and then select the one that you want that particular program to use. And then finally there's About, which tells you the traditional information about your system. Windows 10 Pro, the size of my processor, how much RAM I have installed, my system type. This particular monitor has the capability of supporting touchscreen, but it's not one that is the more current one, but I can still use it. It's an older touchscreen monitor, but it doesn't have, I think the new ones are 6 and 8 touch points. This one only has 2, but it tells you that. And some other related settings. System information is the traditional one that's from previous operating systems. Device manager. So that's all in System and About. And like I said, if you don't know exactly where some of these features happens to be, the search box down here in the corner is going to be your friend. Just type in what you remember in a previous operating system, and it will give you a match. One of the things too is that I think earlier someone was asking about how I upgraded my operating system. We all realize that Windows 10 is completely voluntary. You do not have to upgrade to Windows 10. But in my opinion, since it's free, and if you have a Windows 7 or Windows 8.1 update machine, you're currently running those operating systems, it's really a no-brainer to be able to update to the latest version. You can still upgrade those from Vista. Vista can be updated as well, but for those it has to be a clean install. But for all the others, it's a direct upgrade. So, but as I was saying, is that it's completely voluntary. So if you are still undecided to go about upgrading, I don't really think that you'll lose anything by not doing so. There's been, over time, there's going to be, a lot of people say, well, I'm going to wait for a while and wait till the dust settles before I upgrade. Well, in my opinion, the problems that you have, that there's no guarantee that you will not have the very same problems as you wait for later. So if you probably jump in now, you can find support to help you get through whatever problems that you may have. My take on it, if you are just running, if you upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 8, then there's very little problems that you should encounter with Windows 10. It was likewise is that if you have 7, that most of the drivers and all the peripherals that were running in 7 ran well in 8. So there's not going to be a situation where you're going to have a printer problem or a scanner, unless you came from the scanner goes back to maybe, or the printer goes back to the old XP days and it didn't get upgraded in Windows 8. But one of the nice things about the installation process that the system will go out and check. The installer will go out and check all those issues and will alert you what problems that you might encounter. So you won't have any surprises. If it can install, then it will revert back to the operating system you're currently using. If you go to Windows 10 and you decide that for some reason you do not want or don't like Windows 10, you also can go here in Updated Security, click on Recovery, and you have 30 days from the date of installation to go back to whatever operating system you had. Like in this case, I had 8.1, so it allows me to go back to 8.1. If it's Windows 7, it'll allow you to go back to Windows 7. Any questions so far? If we go and look at
we have bunches, Bill. We have bunches, but I guess it depends on when you want to address them, or if you want to continue with your outline and then come back to these questions later.
I'll continue my outline and then we'll get to the questions.
Sounds good.
All right. So in Windows 10, we have the traditional taskbar. Hopefully you can see that on your screen. And one of the newest features, of course, is the task view, which allows you to have multiple desktops. So if you are a multitasker, this is a godsend, something I understand that has been borrowed from the Linux world, but you can add any number of desktops that you want and run those concurrently. So if I want to start a new desktop, I just click the plus sign here, and then I can launch whatever I want. Say, for instance, I wanted to start a new document in Word. And I'm just going to type this as a test. And I need to go back to where I was before. I can just click here and select this desktop, and I'm back. If I want to go back to that to my other desktop, I click here again and click the icon, and I'm there back to the my new desktop. So I can have any number of things going on and keep them running and just toggle back and forth just by clicking on the task view. And I can also use the Windows, using the Windows and Tab key is a quick way to get back to those without having to use the mouse. So I think this will be, at least for me, I found this very handy, and I probably will end up using it quite a bit. Because I did like the hot corners, if you recall in Windows 8, if you were a user, is that those allowed you also to be able to switch quickly between different applications. But hot corners are no longer available in 10, so we now have what's referred to as a task view, and that allows us practically to do the same kinds of things. Next to Task View, we have our new browser, which is referred to as Microsoft Edge. Microsoft Edge is will soon be the replacement for IE, and you notice it has a very clean appearance. Um, there are some things about it that you have to probably figure out at some point. One is how to import your favorites from IE to Edge. And you go here, you'll see like three little dots. Click on that, and whoops, I'm wrong about that, excuse me. It's this menu right here. Click here, and you'll find how to import your favorites. You'll see that over into the right hand side. Click on import favorites, and then it will bring up the browsers that you have installed. So for instance, if you have Chrome or you have Firefox, those would be indicated here, and you can import the favorites from any one or all of those browsers to Edge. One thing about Edge that you might want to play with, which is kind of interesting, is that if you notice here, there is a pen and a pad where it says make a web note. If you click on that, you'll be presented with a menu of various type pens, which comes in different colors and sizes. But just by clicking on that, you can then go and highlight any text that you have in the browser. And then of course you can, if you want to, you can then go and cut that as a clip and highlight it like so. Okay. And then you can go over here and paste that in any kind of document with the highlighted area. So I'm sure you could find any number of uses. That also would be the same. You could do the same thing in an email if you liked. So that is something that's very new and interesting with Edge. To get out of that, you just click on the exit. It also has an abundance of sharing features where you can go and share that particular page with Mail, OneNote, or whatever that you care to share the particular Facebook, whatever you care to share the document that you're looking at. One of the things too is that it was a carryover from the old Windows 8 Metro version of Internet Explorer is the reading view. Now you'll find this really handy if you are one that likes to print out various pages of Internet Explorer, but you don't like the headings. You can do that by just doing the reading view and then hitting here and then go to print. And you'll find in the preview you will have the headings on your document that you're going to print. So that's the reading view, and you click to come out of it. And as you notice, you get all the headings back, but in reading view you do not. And of course, if you want to make that a favorite, it's just click on the star, and that'll add a favorite to your bookmarks or to your reading list. One of the things that you might find, since Edge is so new, you might find the situation that it doesn't work with some websites that you're going to. Maybe it's your banking website, and you think, oh my goodness, I don't have Internet Explorer. Well, that's not true either. again, go to the search bar and type in Internet Explorer, and you'll find it at the very top. And you can then right click, and in my case, I already have it pinned to my start menu, my taskbar, but you'll find where it says pin to taskbar, and then you can place IE on the taskbar and use it if you can't use Edge. And from my knowledge, at least from my experience, is that whatever you do here in Internet Explorer also affects what's done in Edge and vice versa. So if you create a new favorite, then that favorite will also appear in Edge as well, and vice versa. And of course, you have the more familiar. It's more familiar to you. It's a little more cluttered than Edge, but if you feel more comfortable in using this in Edge, well, you can have that as well. Next to that, of course, is the File Explorer, which is new in some appearances, as the previous David Williams talked about the quick access bar or quick access in the navigation pane. That's new. Frequent folders now show all your recent files. And then, of course, the toolbar that we've come familiar with in previous versions is still available. But there's quite a bit of new tweaks that has been added to File Explorer. You can still right-click on the desktop and do your display settings. It'll show up in the new menu view, but that still works the same. And you can do personalization, and you'll still be able to change the colors and the backgrounds or whatever you want, just like you did in previous versions of Windows. If we go towards the right, we'll find the traditional notification area, and that still has where you show some programs and some things that are running, like in this case OneDrive, how to safely remove your hardware and eject media, Bluetooth devices, so you have those, and some other things. Next to that is your internet or network access, how it's whether it's wireless or is LAN, how to adjust your speakers, and this right here is probably the newest. It's new notifications. When you click that, you have a list of things that have occurred within the day that you set this up to do. Like, here are some Facebook things. I have some social media, and I have it set where Facebook gives me notifications when there's a reply to a comment or someone shared a link, birthday notifications, etc. Also, it gives me how my security and maintenance is looking. It's always telling me to disable apps to improve performance, but that's good that it does. And you can go there and look and see maybe that some of those apps you may not need, and you can disable them. It tells you how OneDrive is functioning. And in this case, I have a problem with OneNote with some shortcuts, which I have to address later. It also gives me the latest news. And Cortana, I had booked a flight recently, and it told me exactly, of course, it was after the fact, but it did notify me before I left that what my flight status was. And I thought that was really handy. Below that are some boxes that allow you to change various functions, how whether you want to be in tablet mode if you own a tablet, uh, how to connect to devices that you have. You can click that and it will actually go out and look for your Bluetooth or any wireless device that you might have that you want to install or add. You have to have the device turned on and make it discoverable, but this is how you would be able to quickly connect to that particular device. You can write a quick note that brings up Office OneNote. And of course, here's all settings again. That's the menu we've talked about before. Bluetooth, you can set it for quiet hours. In other words, if you leave your machine on full time, you can set the hours that you want it to alert you that something has occurred. This is also the area where you can set the location of where you reside. And that's purely optional. You can go in and adjust that to whether you want to be a particular application to use location or not. And this right here is where you can set up a VPN connection. You need to be able to, I believe this is subscription. There might be some free ones, but that's kind of a filter that guards your connections between you and the internet world. And of course, here's the calendar, time, and how you set up the dates and things. So all in all, if you haven't decided, I think you'll really be in for a treat if you go ahead and do the update. Now, of course, in Windows 8, we got a bunch of shortcuts, and with Windows 10, there's no different, all utilizing the Windows key. So if I use my Windows plus Tab key, it'll activate the task view. If I use Windows key and C, it will bring up Cortana. Hi, Cortana. Play music.
Sorry, the internet and I aren't talking right now.
Oh, we're sorry. She tells me she's not talking, so if I use the window plus Q or window plus S, it will give me Windows plus Q will give me the search option. For some reason, she's forgotten who I was. We'll talk about the privacy issues in a moment. If I use a Windows plus I and consider Windows plus I as I for information, it will bring up the settings menu or the settings app. You also can use the Windows left up and down key to snap windows to the left. So if I wanted to go put this on, let me do something here. If I had this my Word document and I wanted to snap it to the left, I can just use the Windows key and hit the left arrow key and it goes to the left, or the right. Windows plus the up arrow will maximize the application. If I use the Control, Window, and the D key, it will bring up a new desktop. And you see it scrolling through those. Here, you can adjust your tiles any way you want, still make them as resize them like you did in the past. You can unpin them to start, resize, turn off the live tiles if you don't like the activity, pin it to task, or uninstall. You can arrange them any place you want, like you just by dragging them as we did before. You can start a new group by placing that particular tile underneath the gray bar, if you can see that, and then click here and then give it a name. And when you move it, of course, it will take that away. The old Windows tiles, remember when you used to click on those, they would become full screen? Well, they no longer do that. They remain in a window, but you can still make them full screen if you like, and they will appear in this fashion. That's the News app. The Weather app is still there and allows you to get the same information as before. And then the Hamburger Menu allows you to make all kinds of changes. And of course, just by right-clicking, you can move or do whatever, or make it full screen as it was in the past.
Bill?
Yes.
We have a few minutes left, and there's been a number of people want you to talk about privacy. So
okay,
would you
let's
be able
do
to
that.
share that?
And we'll do that really quickly. And then I'll try to address some, I didn't realize that going over time, we'll talk about any of the questions if you find some that are important. Privacy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and just type privacy here. And up here I'll get the privacy settings. Of course, under general, we have let apps use advertising ID experiences across apps. You can turn that off or on. The smart screen filters to check web content that Windows Store apps use. Send Microsoft how you want to help improve. But that's not the most important one. The one that's probably the most important is location, where you can go and turn that on or off if you do not want a device to be able to track where you are. And then below that, here's how you choose which apps can use the location. So if I want App Connector, let's see, hold on. So what you have to do in this case is if you want to pick and choose which apps you want to choose your location, you turn this off. And then you go below and then you can select which ones you want to use. Like for instance, you want Facebook not to use it, you can then change it. If you have this off, then by default, all of these are on. And then under geofencing, a geofence is a boundary around a place of the internet, and apps can use your location to see if you're crossing in or out of one. And since it's saying none of those are taking place, then that's something I can't really make change. But if it is using that, then I would be able to turn that on or off. The same for the camera. If you want certain apps not to use your camera, then you have to turn this off and then go and I'm sorry, it was turned off by default. Then I can go in and turn which one of these I do not want my camera to use. But when I turn it on, I turn it off, then by default, all of these are able to use the camera. So you have to go in when you first get it installed and make those kinds of changes. Likewise, the microphone, you can turn it on or off. Speech, Cortana will get to know your voice and writing to make better suggestions to you. If you don't want her to continue to learn more about you, you can go here and stop that activity. Your account information, you can allow apps to access your name, picture, and other accounts, but you can also turn that off. Some apps need that access, though, for it to work as it's intended. So you might want to be sure that when you do that, that you're not affecting something that you might want to continue using. Contacts, I'm sorry?
I think I'm going to have to cut you off because we need to get stuff switched over for the next one. There are quite a lot of questions, and we know the whole thing has only been open or in our laps for a little over 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Just so you know, most of the questions that were being posted were hardware related questions, and I think that's something that
I'll just make a general statement about hardware. Again, if you're currently using Windows 7 and Windows 8, I don't think you have any concern whatsoever with upgrading Windows 10. If you're coming from XP, then you have probably an issue. But I would say that if you're coming from Windows, even Windows Vista, I think you may not have too many issues. The only problem that you have there, you have to do a clean install. But most of your peripherals should work just as they were intended.
Well, a lot of people are saying they have specific things that don't work, and that's just going to be something that over a little bit of time that drivers and whatever else can go. Yeah, I want to thank Bill for doing a very difficult task of trying to present something brand new in such a short time. There will be many questions, and I think there will be many other presentations. So thank you, Bill, for this.